Hello everyone, Darren here, and on today's episode we are talking about the map Malinovka. This map variant replaced the original summer version, which was one of the oldest maps in the game. Since the map swap, the strategy has since shifted. So on today's episode, I will provide an overview of the map, all three areas of contention, and the basic strategy that players should always keep in mind regardless of the spawn that they start on. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting with the overview, Malinovka is one of the oldest maps in the game. However, unlike the original summer variant with the thawed river, Malinovka Winter has its river frozen, allowing for a second flank that must not be ignored. Now this map is wide open with the ability to maneuver and support other flanks without the need to deal with corridors. The two main flanks to consider is the hill and the frozen river, but in the middle is arguably the most vital part of the map. That is the area surrounding the frozen lake in the middle. For as long as this map has been around, winning Malinovka has relied heavily on teamwork, which we will go more in depth throughout the video. Now, before we cover the two brawling flanks, let's cover the center of the map, the middle lake. At least at the very start of the game, this zone is vital for providing support to either flank, while both flanks focus on dealing with what's directly in front of them. The job of any lights or mediums that go middle is to spot any tanks hanging back or moving towards those flanks in question to allow your team's TDs at the back to provide supporting fire, if not supporting fire themselves. The duty of any tanks that go middle is to provide flanking shots on any enemy tanks along either flank, if and when applicable. Even if you focus on one flank, you can still assist the other by spotting tanks in your vision range, allowing anyone within range themselves to engage them. Now, early mid-game, only mediums and lights should be playing the middle, as fighting in this area requires some level of speed and flexibility to fight and survive here. And the superior vision of lights and mediums are needed early game for not only battlefield information, but also spotting long-distance enemies and providing much-needed flanking supporting fire on either hill or river flanks. That is not to say that other tanks can't go middle, mid to late game, depending on if the hill flank is being won by their team. The aggressive supporting fire locations can be found on the ramps on either end of the lake that can be utilized by any tanks that decide to go middle, with spotting bushes found in 3 locations along the lake's cliff and some other locations sprinkled throughout around the surrounding area of the frozen lake. Do take care to note that these are well known and tend to be passive spotting only. If discovered, expect your position to be contested or at least receive incoming fire. If you are not a passive scouting type of person, a skilled active scouter can potentially light up tanks going both flanks if they know where to go and is fast enough to get there. Moving on to the hill flank, this flank is more catered to tanks capable of ridgeline fighting to some degree, and that doesn't just mean heavies. Mediums, TDs, heavies, if you have the armor and gun depression and desire to brawl, then this flank is for you. Just be warned that the only 2 real pieces of cover that provide any semblance of being already safe is the windmill and the center rock on the lower shelf. Now, if you are a TD or any tank really intending to directly support the hill flank, you can find suitable locations in yellow here on the map before you. Now, winning the hill offers your team more map control in terms of being able to provide supporting fire from an elevated position, but oftentimes teams fail at pushing off the hill towards the enemy base, which typically stems from a lack of spotting supporting fire from the middle. If you manage to win the hill, you have 3 options to choose from depending on the situation in game. You can sit still on the hill, press the attack on the enemy base, or go back and defend your base if the opposite flank has fallen. If you choose either of the latter 2 options, it is important to try and move together and go straight for cover as quickly as possible, as the descent down the hill is often the most dangerous. Now, if you don't have the ability to fight ridgelines effectively, then consider moving towards the river. This flank is more geared towards super heavies and tanks in general that just don't have the speed or ability to contest the hill like tanks that can. Now, the river flank does have a more direct route to the opposing team's base, but you will find that they push off the river to arguably be very exposed with limited buildings or hard cover to utilize for protection. This is where the supporting elements in the middle of the map fall into play. Unfortunately, unlike the hill flank, returning to defend your base is near suicidal, as this option would leave you out of spotting range of your base and needing to cross open ground against a technically dug-in enemy. The only choice is to win this flank as quickly as possible and keep your momentum to push across the open into more advantageous cover and positions before the opposing team has time to realize what has happened and react accordingly. Now, if you are a TD, you will find supporting locations in yellow here on the map before you. However, the pickings are pretty slim on this flank. The only truly game-changing location here is the position in the corner of land on the very southwest corner of the map. Getting a fast, sneaky TD here can cause the enemy team to be whittled down very quickly if the TD can remain unspotted. If discovered, however, expect a quick trip back to the garage unless you are a potentially well-dug-in tank like a Stritzvon. Now, in closing, you may have realized that Artie is yet to be mentioned. Well, basically, they tend to just sit around their respective bases in numerous locations that can only be depicted as a general zone that you can see here in yellow on this map. General positioning in these zones do allow Artie to engage and support both flanks, but always keep an eye on the middle, as TDs and other tanks tend to hover in the general vicinity, and if they're distracted by something else, they can make relatively easy targets. In closing, this map is a bit of a toss-up, a coin flip, if you will, as to which team will win. Both main flanks rely heavily on support of some minimal degree from the middle. The key to winning a flank is a good combination of aggressive plays on the flank with spotting and supporting fire from the middle. With two important flanks, there is no general key strategy to follow, and there is no need to win both flanks. It is quite possible to lose one flank, or even both in rare cases, and still win the game. It is the team that can work together the best that will manage to win the match. And while in-game communication may be hit or miss, at least knowing your tank's capabilities and what flank will allow you to have the most impact, that will allow you to make up for that lack of communication to some degree. That does it for this map walkthrough. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you found this video helpful or even just like this type of video overall, hit that thumbs up and help the algorithm out. And if you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe. But until next time, this has been Darren of WotC Academy.